At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. What's going on, folks? Thank you for listening to the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. I'm Corey Seidman, solo today. Ricky Batalico will be back with us this weekend, but just want to kind of to check in at the midpoint of this 10-game Phillies NL East road trip. It's also the official 1/3 mark of the Phillies season. 54 games in, they're 25-29, and there's a lot to get to today. Coming off of the first game at Citi Field, there's the topic of chasing pitches from the Phillies offense, which has been a theme for about a month now. There is the fifth starter situation. There's the middle of the rotation. There is the Jose Alvarado situation. There's the question about why Bryce Harper wasn't available in game 1 of the Mets series, which, might not be a topic in a few hours, but was certainly interesting Tuesday night. But got to start with the amount of pitches the Phillies are chasing outside the strike zone, because this is a topic that we've been harping on for weeks, that Rob Thompson's been referencing since the season began. The Phillies ranked second in the majors in terms of swinging at pitches outside the strike zone. The only team that's chased more than the Phillies so far is the Chicago White Sox, who have been struggling since the first week of the year. The Phillies ranked 25th in baseball in walk rate. There's only a handful of teams walking less than them. And those teams are some of the worst offenses, like the Marlins, the Nationals, the Royals, the Athletics, not the company you want to be keeping. On Tuesday night in that series opener against Kodai Senga, the Japanese right-hander, the $75 million man the Mets brought over this offseason, Senga entered that game having walked at least 3 batters in 8 of his 9 starts, having gone 6 innings in only 3 of 9 starts. He struggles with control. He can be erratic. He has that big fork ball that can drop out of the strike zone, and when he's falling behind in counts and can't use it as much, he's a much different pitcher. But he attacked the Phillies, and they swung. I mean, they chased. They expanded the strike zone again. And over 7 innings, Senga didn't walk anybody. 1 hit, 1 base runner. The Phillies didn't have anybody reach scoring position all night. Brutal offensive night. And Rob Thompson admitted as much after the game that Senga attacked early and then the Phillies expanded. And that's been a constant theme throughout the early part of the season. And the reason it's even a topic worth addressing right off the bat is because you wonder, is there a quick fix? Is there any fix? The Phillies have several hitters who are selective, who take their walks, who work deep counts. Bryce Harper, one of the most selective hitters in baseball. Kyle Schwarber really has a good idea of the strike zone. Bryson Stott has a penchant for working these long foul ball filled plate appearances. One of the key traits you want in a leadoff hitter. Brandon Marsh has been a revelation in terms of plate selection this season. Marsh has been a revelation all around offensively between the increased plate selection and the increased power. I mean, if Brandon Marsh can be an 800-plus OPS guy consistently, along with his age and his speed and his center field defense, that's a really valuable piece for the Phillies. But you have those 4 guys who you can count on right now to take pitches, to see pitches, to control the strike zone for the most part. But what about the rest of the team? Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, Alec Bohm, Edmundo Sosa, Trey Turner, these are all guys who are aggressive hitters. Castellanos has never walked 50 times in a season. Trey Turner talked 2 weeks ago about how he's the kind of guy who wants to hit his way out of a slump, that when he tries to walk, when he concerns himself with walking, he gets into a deeper funk. JT Realmuto, Alec Bohm, 2 guys with tremendous hand-eye coordination and bat-to-ball skills who put the ball in play so much. Realmuto and Bohm do not strike out much. They don't swing and miss much. So where some guys might swing through a pitch or foul it off, and because of that are able to work a deeper count, get to 3-2, maybe walk, Realmuto and Bohm are putting the ball in play earlier in that plate appearance. So you wonder, like, how can the Phillies walk more? How can they increase their selectivity when they have half the lineup or more than half the lineup that it seems like it's in their offensive DNA to be aggressive? And that's just the problem, is that when you're not slugging enough to make up for the lack of walks, you see how a team that can, hit a little bit, like the Phillies the first month of the season, you remember they were high in the majors in batting average, and people said, how's this even possible? How are they not scoring runs? Well, the reason is because when you're not slugging and you're not walking, it can be deceptive. The Phillies only have one 3-run homer all season. Pretty sure they have one 3-run homer and one grand slam. And that is a direct byproduct of fewer base runners, not taking those free passes. So it's certainly something to keep an eye on. The Phillies' most selective hitter was not in the lineup Tuesday night, Bryce Harper. The Phillies said they wanted to get him 2 days off. They were off on Memorial Day, so it meant sitting Harper either on Sunday, Monday, or Monday, Tuesday. Harper wanted to play on Sunday night, so the Phillies sat him Tuesday. In retrospect, it probably would have made more sense to sit Harper on Sunday night because it was Spencer Strider against Dylan Covey, a game that skewed heavily in the Braves' favor before it even began. But alas, Harper was not used in the ninth inning Tuesday night against David Robertson, which was a bit curious. But Rob Thompson's explanation was that the Phillies wanted to give him a full day off, that a lot of times when a guy knows he's available to pinch hit later in a game, he's swinging all throughout the game. He's taking cuts in the batting cage. He's swinging repetitively. And that the Phillies wanted Harper to not swing at all, to not worry about that, to just take a full day off. So that was why Harper, interestingly, did not play in the first Phillies-Mets game of 2023. Moving on to the rotation. There is no decision that has yet been made as of midday Wednesday as to who will start for the Phillies the next time the number 5 spot comes up in the rotation. That is going to be Saturday in Washington, D.C. against the Nationals offense that can hit singles but can't do much else. Last in home runs, but I believe they're first in batting average in the National League. But no decision has yet been made. Dylan Covey made that start on Sunday night and got lit up, tattooed, 7 runs, 5 earned, 6 hits, 2 homers, made it through just 2/3 of an inning. The Braves had a bunch of balls that were like 100 miles per hour or more off the bat. And Covey is still on the roster as of Wednesday. He's available out of the bullpen as of Wednesday, but no decision has been made as to who's going to make that start on Saturday. Rob Thompson saying that how the next few games go will help determine it. The Phillies could go with an opener again, maybe Matt Strahm, maybe Connor Brogdon, although Thompson has said he does not like using an opener. He likes a traditional starting pitcher. Christopher Sanchez on this past Sunday at AAA pitched 6 scoreless innings, not as a starting pitcher, but as a bulk pitcher behind an opener. He could be in play. He'd be on regular rest if he were to pitch Saturday. But in that regard, we know about the difficulties the Phillies have had at the number 5 spot in the rotation, losing 9 of 10 games with an ERA north of 6. Bailey Falter was not the answer early. Andrew Painter obviously was injured in spring training, and the Phillies still have hope that he can contribute at some point toward the end of the summer, but he's not there right now. But the problems in the number 5 spot could be masked somewhat if the Phillies were getting more production out of the middle of their rotation, which they have not gotten to this point. That was why it was so good to see Ranger Suarez bounce back with 6 2/3 strong innings on Tuesday night. Allowed 2 runs. One of them was bequeathed to Connor Brogdon, who inherited that runner and gave it up. So, Suarez almost made it out of 7 innings, allowing 1 run before, putting a couple guys on base there in his final frame. But Suarez was working ahead of hitters, 18 out of 26 first pitch strikes. And that was something the Phillies needed to see because in his first 3 starts, Suarez had thrown 29 first pitch strikes and 26 first pitch balls. He's never been a huge first pitch strike guy, but 50% is not going to cut it. And that was playing out in Suarez's, every inning he had pitched in his first 3 starts was pretty much stressful. Put two guys on base per inning, but he was much better against the Mets. Suarez said after the game that a key for him in between starts was simulating a game during his bullpen session in between starts, that instead of just, throwing 35 pitches and focusing on like hitting corners and throwing all of his pitches, he treated it like a game, that if he threw a ball on the first pitch, now it was a 1-0 count. Kind of seems simple, but I guess that helped Ranger Suarez in terms of his sequencing and location and just helped him lock in. He said he felt much more calm on the mound in New York, that he felt sped up in his first 3 starts. Some of that, I'm sure, can be attributed to the pitch clock. Remember that Ranger Suarez had no spring training, didn't make any starts in spring training. went to the World Baseball Classic, made one exhibition start for Team Venezuela against the Astros, came out of that start with forearm tightness that eventually became an elbow injury that sidelined him for the first 6 weeks or so of the season. During his rehab assignment, he only threw 9 innings. So Suarez was not built up. I mean, so you could argue that this start against the Mets last night, Tuesday night, was more equivalent to like his final spring training start or his first start of the regular season. So we'll see what Ranger Suarez is able to do next few cycles through the Phillies rotation. But that was a promising development because going into Tuesday night, the Phillies had received a 6.30 ERA out of Taijuan Walker and Suarez in 14 starts, with 11 of those belonging to Walker. And Walker, despite the fact that he was unable to make it out of the first inning in that start in San Francisco recently, the other 4 starts he had made in that span of time, 4 out of his last 5 have been good ones. So Walker is slowly coming around, and that is that's an important part of the Phillies season, is the fact that Taijuan Walker was paid $72 million and needs to perform up to that price tag, and that there were high hopes for Ranger Suarez, who had a 2.91 ERA as a starter the last 2 seasons. At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years, and you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone, including a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. The Phillies, during this NL East road trip, they had a couple games early on in Atlanta that were impressive. There was a game in Atlanta in one of the wins where the Phillies had a bunch of walks. They took their pitches, and it kind of showed you what the offense can do when the top 2 guys in the order are producing, when the team is taking pitches. Bryson Stott reached base 4 times in that one game earlier in the road trip with 3 stolen bases, and Trey Turner had the RBI double. That's the kind of game we haven't seen enough. In fact, I'm not sure if this is updated to this point, but the other day I went game by game. I went game log by game log, and this was as of Thursday night last week, the first game of the Atlanta series. Just once in the last 35 games have both Stott and Turner reached base in the first inning. That was true as of this past Thursday night. Can't recall off the top of my head if it's happened since then, but it just shows you how infrequently the Phillies have been able to get like runners on the corners the way you would imagined when they added Trey Turner. You're thinking, okay, Turner's going to either lead off or bat second, and the Phillies are going to be able to give Bryce Harper all these RBI opportunities, and it just really hasn't materialized so far, largely because of this season-long slump that Turner has been in. Not season-long. I mean, the first 3 weeks he was productive, but it was a hitless night for Turner again. Tuesday night, he's hitting .240 on the season with a .663 OPS. Not what anybody would have expected. And, when you look at some of these numbers, some of them are ripe for regression, which if you're a Phillies fan should make you feel positive about some things. Kyle Schwarber's hitting 166. Now, he is not a high batting average guy, but is Kyle Schwarber going to hit 166? I mean, that's like 50 points lower than he hit last season. JT Realmuto, his on-base percentage is about 30 to 35 points lower than it's been the last 5 years. Is that going to continue? Is Trey Turner going to hit 240? Are all of these things going to remain consistent that the Phillies don't improve offensively? Like, I just don't see that happening. I think if you're looking at this from a realistic lens, these guys are going to heat up. They're going to have their hot streaks. It's just that the Phillies haven't been able to time these hot streaks in an efficient manner. Not that you can select when whoever gets hot, but like Schwarber, when he's been going, Realmuto hasn't been going. When Turner was good early, they didn't have Harper. When Harper got back, Turner hasn't hit. Nick Castellanos' production has waned a bit offensively. So It's been a lot of highs and lows, a lot of peaks and valleys. We've seen the long winning streaks and the long losing streaks for the Phillies. Overall on this NL East trip, the Phillies are 2-3. That series at the end in DC, I mean, you don't want to say, yeah, it's a must-win series in June, but I mean, come on, that's a series where the Phillies have to end this trip on a high note, regardless of what happens the rest of the way in New York, as you have Aaron Nola going against Carlos Carrasco in Game 2, and then Taijuan Walker against Max Scherzer in Game 3. The Phillies need to take at least 2 of 3 in Washington over the weekend. You got to make use of these divisional matchups against the weaker teams when they come up, because you have 6 fewer of them per season, only 13 against each team in the NL East as opposed to 19 in prior years. The Phillies had not had a taste of the NL East until this trip. And as they go into Game 2, they're already 6.5 games behind the Braves in the division. They don't face the Braves again until June 20th in Philadelphia. And in between, Atlanta has a cakewalk of a schedule. Oakland, the Tigers, the Nationals, the Royals, the Rockies at home. So you don't want to let that deficit grow too much. You don't want the season to be strictly wild card by the 3rd week of June, but the Phils certainly have to get their act together. Haven't played particularly well in any phase. The starters are in the bottom third of baseball in ERA. They're toward the bottom of baseball in terms of turning balls in play into outs defensively. The runners in scoring position woes have been there all year. But, as I said, a few of these things should correct themselves. Like, I don't think Trey Turner is going to be hitting 240 all year. If you do and it happens, I mean, wow, that would be shocking. But water often does find its level. And Trey Turner is such a good hitter that you'd think that after a while, just muscle memory is going to take over, even if he's dealing with confidence issues and, wondering where the consistent on-base skills or power have gone. That's going to do it for this Phillies Talk podcast. Ricky Bowe will be back with me later in the week. Hopefully we're talking about a successful end to this 10-game Phillies NL East road trip. Thanks a lot for listening.